More than 600,000 farmers and farm workers are now free of debt for lands awarded to them by the government thanks to a new law. We discuss the recently signed new Agrarian Emancipation Act with Agrarian Reform Secretary Conrado Estrella III, who joins us now in the studio. Secretary, thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word.
Good evening, Rico. I am honored to be in this show.
Congratulations on the signing of President Bongbong Marcos of this Agrarian Emancipation Act.
Well, it's actually a joint effort. The executive branch, the cabinet, and of course the senators and the congressmen, everybody.
But how significant, Secretary, is this new law for all our farmers?
Oh, absolutely. It matters a lot to our farmers, especially to the agrarian reform beneficiaries, because, of course, when the government distributed, the past administrations distributed land to the farmers, it was accompanied with the debt that they have to service. They had to pay the amortization fees, and if there are any penalties, including the penalties. Now that this bill has been signed, and once it takes effect, once the IRR also, the implementing rules and regulations, would have been approved already by the body that is supposed to be composed of people coming from the Land Bank of the Philippines, the Department of Agrarian Reform, and the Presidential Agrarian Reform Committee, the farmers will be liberated from the burden of debt. Can you just imagine the additional income that they're going to have because of no longer servicing the debt, no longer paying for amortization fees?
Well, which is also a lot, no? Whether it be 10, 20, 30, or 40,000, that is a huge weight off their shoulders.
In the countryside, that matters a lot because they can now use this additional income for more advanced farming method. They could adopt a more advanced farming method. And not only that, they can also use it for their family.
But Secretary, I also want to find out, on the flip side, how about those who have already fully paid their debt or been prompted in paying their debt? How do they benefit from this law?
Actually, we have discussed that thoroughly, and they need not worry because there will be more support services coming in for the prompt payers. When we say support services, it does not only mean farm-to-market roads, it does not only mean farm machineries and equipment and other inputs, but also we will address their health and even provide them with a scholarship with their children.
So this basically follow-through support services.
Yes, additional livelihood packages for them.
But for those whose debts have been condoned,
yes,
I mean, are they just left with that? Or will they also be able to avail of support services to be able to help them to till their land and use new innovations and technologies?
Oh yes, yes. Because during the time of the father of the late, the father of the incumbent president, the late President Ferdinand Enderlin Marcos Sr., and my grandfather, who was the first Secretary of Agrarian Reform. During their time, I remember the agrarian reform beneficiaries and the farmers were provided with so much support services. And now we are going to do the same thing. We will carry on with the tradition of rewarding those who are putting food in every Filipino home.
But you see, the big question now is, Secretary Estrella, is the debt, which is 58 billion pesos. I mean, this is also a huge condonation of debt of the farmers. Will this impact the Philippine economy?
Oh no, it is not going to affect the economy. Simply because these are dormant accounts already, as what the president said. And you know, this is not a one-shot deal. Addressing this debt, the condonation of this debt is not just a year, just 1 year or one-shot deal. This is going to be on a multi-year, we will address this on a multi-year approach. So it's not so much of a burden to the coffers of the government. We have paid already in advance the other landowners. And besides, we have allotted already some funds to also pay those who have not yet been paid by the government. And more importantly, as you know, Rico, it is always a part of efficient fiscal management to also consider social justice. And that is what we're doing now. And hopefully this will help us take off.
Take off and pump prime and jumpstart the agricultural sector.
Yes.
Secretary Estrella, we will continue our discussion on the Agrarian Emancipation Act in a while. We will just take this short break and find out if this new law will improve farm productivity and food security. Welcome back to the Final Word on CNN Philippines. I'm Rico Hizon. We continue now our discussion with DAR Secretary Conrado Estrella III on the new Agrarian Emancipation Act. You know, over the past years, we always talk about food productivity, food security, El Nino impacting our farms. Will emancipating our farmers from this huge debt improve our food security and food productivity, Secretary?
Oh yes, definitely. Because with this, they will be having enough, they will be having additional income. And as I said earlier, they can use this to improve further their farming methods. And of course, if they modernize, they mechanize, especially if they form themselves as a cooperative or even form a corporation, and then there will be consolidation of land because of them forming a cooperative, then they can mechanize, they can modernize, and with that they can definitely, and they will definitely improve production.
So with farmers forming a cooperative, improving productivity and food security, Secretary, will this mean less importation of agricultural goods from overseas? Because that has really been the crux of our problems over the past year.
Most definitely. Like for example, in the rice lands, if they form themselves as a cooperative and as a big group, then they can address a lot of things. Like, for example, they can save up with the inputs, and they will be earning more. And they will be producing more if they use the modern and more scientific methods. And if they do that, there will be greater production. And that is going to lead us away from rice shortage. Hence, the lesser need for importation of rice. Same with sugar.
Same with sugar and with onions.
Same with onions and with the others. And in fact, if we introduce livestock assistance to the farmers, like dairy cows and dairy buffaloes, they could also produce more milk and have additional income. Definitely. And that we researched. I hired some data scientists how we can provide additional income to the farmers. And one way is to introduce livestock. That has been done before during the time of President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. So if we provide them with enough livestock, they will have they will have additional income.
But of course, Secretary, that is the ideal situation. But now that farmers have their debts condoned and have their individual land titles, maybe they might think, I don't need to till the farm. I don't need to grow any more rice, onions. I don't need to have any more sugar. Why don't I just sell my land for a profit?
I could behave the same way.
Yes.
Except that, you have to study the law. And
It's not allowed.
We did not touch Republic Act 6657. And that is the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law. And it is provided for in that law that you cannot sell your land from the time you have received your title. You cannot sell it for a period of 10 years. Only after 10 years can you sell your land.
But Secretary,
private entities.
But Secretary, hundreds of thousands of farmers have had their debts condoned. How can you monitor all of them? How can there really be oversight for these farmers who own a little bit more than 1 hectare?
Well, you remember, Rico, that for the information of the public, I would like you to know that it is Department of Agrarian Reform is one of the agencies that have not devolved, which means we have machinery down to the barangay level, and we can monitor. And not only that, even we will team up with the Land Bank of the Philippines, and they too have their own grassroots machinery, especially now that they are assisting aggressively and on an accelerated manner, providing credit assistance to our farmers.
So if they try to sell their land, what will the Department of Agrarian Reform do? They will take back the land.
If we find out that they have sold their land within the 10-year period, then we will take it back and we will distribute it to other more deserving agrarian reform beneficiaries. It's simply that way.
When will this new law take effect, Secretary Estrella?
Oh, it's supposed to take effect as provided for in this Happy Law. This is the nickname of the new Agrarian Emancipation Act. Its nickname is Happy Law. It's supposed to take effect 15 days from the time it was published in an official gazette. And I believe that it was published last July 9. And so it's supposed to take effect on July 24.
And what about the IRR?
But then again, you see, there is a great difference between the law taking effect and its implementation. Now, before we implement it, we have to come up, as in any case, with an IRR, or implementing rules and regulations. And we are just waiting, and probably by tomorrow, and the President wants us to hit the ground running. And he told us that tomorrow we're going to meet at 8 a.m. Because we will already we will already fill up the slots that will compose of the body that will formulate and eventually finalize the implementing rules and regulations for this act. We are, as per the law, we are given 60 days to finish that. Probably by September 13.
Those are the marching orders of President Bongbong Marcos.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Finish it as soon as possible.
As soon as possible. The salient features of this Agrarian Emancipation Law.
Yes.
Secretary Conrado Estrella III.
Thank you so much, Rico. Just like what I said earlier, I'm honored to be in your show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.